If you're considering walking the amazing Camino de Santiago, or actually any travel adventure where you want to up your photography game and come back with some extra special images to keep those memories alive, then watch this. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I'm Simon Byrne, a professional travel, tourism, lifestyle and food photographer. And earlier this year, I went to France with my wife to undertake a very special backpacking adventure over the Pyrenees and right across northern Spain to Santiago de Compostela. Now, like most people, we traveled light, which means I didn't take a load of professional photography gear with me. I just took one small camera. But even if you're photographing on a phone, these tips will apply to you. The incredible landscapes that you walk through on a trip like this, they're just amazing, and of course you want to try and capture it all. But also remember the little details, because it's the little things like flowers on the side of a trail, or interesting stonework, or a menu, a sign from a restaurant that you had a great meal at. All these little details all add up and contribute to the story. Yeah, details are really important. The people that you meet on the Camino or anywhere you travel are really what makes the trip, what makes the experience. And it could be the people that you meet on your way, the people that you're traveling with, the locals. The locals really are what create the culture of a place, and they're worth capturing. Of course, you're going to take pictures of your friends having a laugh over dinner, but how about going a little bit deeper? How about tapping into their personalities, trying to capture a candid moment, get into their thoughts and their feelings. Photographing people you know is one thing, but photographing strangers that you meet along the way, that can be trickier. But the secret really is just to be polite, engage with them, show an interest in them, and ask them if you can photograph them. Never stick a camera in somebody's face without asking, because that's rude. One thing that really surprised me on the Camino was the amount of people that were just so focused on getting from A to B as quickly as possible, and they didn't take any time to just stop and look behind them. And they were missing huge opportunities, not only to take photos, but just to enjoy the views, to enjoy where they've just walked from. This happened a lot. In particular, there was a morning where we walked up this very steep hill outside of Castro Jerez, and I spent probably 5 or 10 minutes when I got to the top just to look around and enjoy the view and take some photos. And the amount of pilgrims that came up and passed me as I was there, I would say about 85% of them didn't even stop to look around to see that stunning view before they continued on. Yeah, I found that strange. Now, it's worth remembering on the Camino, you're of course walking from east to west. So you're leaving early in the morning, the sun is behind you, and you've got that lovely, warm, glowing light. If you don't look behind you and see that, you're gonna miss it. And there's some amazing photos to be had with backlit streets and woodland and that sort of thing. So yeah, so stop every now and then and just look behind you, enjoy the view and photograph them. There are so many interesting things to look at and photograph on a travel adventure like the Camino. It's so tempting just to grab our camera and point it and snap and move on, but sometimes it's worth taking a moment before you click and just ask yourself, am I photographing in the best place? Should I move over a few feet either way? Because it's very easy to see an interesting church like this one and just lift your camera and shoot. When you get home and look at the photo, you realize you've got a column with a cross in front of it. And if you just moved over a few feet, you'd end up with something like this, which is less cluttered and there's more focus on your subject that you've isolated. And it's just a better photo, wouldn't you agree? Here's another one where the subject is the cross, and just by moving a little bit, it just gives you a slightly more aesthetically pleasing photo. With this particular shot, it didn't matter where you stood, There were buildings behind and it was very cluttered. So one little technique you can do if your camera and lens has the capability is to shoot with a very shallow depth of field and put the focus on your subject and blur out the background a little bit. That does help. Now there's a statue outside the cathedral in Santiago that everybody seems to photograph, and they shoot it like this. Nothing wrong with it, it's fine. I just find it a little bit busy. The statue is getting lost. From the angle that I chose, the statue's not only isolated, but you can see that it's holding up a shining light towards the cathedral. So there's a bit more of a story there to tell as well. So spend a moment, try and isolate your subject, and you might get a better story too. This last tip is my favorite. It's all about using great light to create a great photo rather than a mediocre photo. Light in photography, any kind of photography, is everything. It's what makes or breaks the photo very often. On the Camino, there's a great opportunity throughout the whole trip to get really good shots of buildings. Most churches and bridges and palaces are illuminated at night. So just by waiting sometimes as little as 5 or 10 minutes, you can transform your photo like this one. I was able to do this in Burgos, in Astorga. My favorite example was from Framista. We'd finished dinner, the sun had just set, and we came across this Romanesque church, and this is what most people were shooting, this shot. I decided to wait another 10 to 15 minutes because I knew that that sky was going to become a nice deep blue and the lights were going to come on and illuminate the church, and you end up with this. There's nothing wrong with the first photo, but don't you think the second one is just a little bit more special? Well, I do hope you found that interesting and those tips useful. If you'd like to see some more of my photos, click on this video. There's about 250 of them crammed into there. It's my overview video of the Camino Frances. Also, my website down below there's a whole bunch of photos and some interesting information that you might like as well. Thank you very much for watching, and buen camino.